going on, guys? Great Scott Mcfly here, and today I'm going to show you a little bit of my collection. I am a console and game collector aside from being a streamer and aspiring YouTuber. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight of what I've collected up until this point, and I decided to start off with the collection that I have the most of, which, as you can probably tell, is the PlayStation 2, and there's quite a bit of them. So I just want to go ahead and get started real quick. I'm going to go ahead and just say what they are, say a little bit about them, and then kind of just move on, because this is probably going to be a bit of a long video if I, go into depth about any of them. So to start off with, I have ATV OffRoad Fury 2. This was one of the first games that I ever picked up when I was a kid off the PlayStation 2. Not much to say about this. It's just an off-road racing game. You don't even have to race, honestly. There's also free roam modes, which was super cool to experience when I was a kid. Next up is Boulders Gate Dark Alliance. This is a isometric top-down hack and slash explorative fantasy world dungeon crawler type game. Really fun. I remember playing this a lot with a friend of mine when I was a kid. Never owned it until early this year, late last year. I can't exactly remember when I picked it up, but super excited to pick this one up here. It's definitely one of the best games that ever came out for the PlayStation 2 in the fantasy genre, at least in my opinion. And then next up I have the sequel, Boulders Gate Dark Alliance 2. More of the same, better graphics, enhanced visuals, that sort of thing. They included 5 different types of heroes in this particular version, whereas I think in the first game there was only like 3. You can also choose between male or female in both games, but this one was definitely the better of the two, and between the two of them I would have chosen Boulders Gate 2 over any other game. So we have Black. This one was a amazing first-person shooter for the time. It had so many different advanced functions like explosions. I think this is one of the first games that you could aim down the sights in like certain types of weapons. I think scoped weapons. But yeah, I don't know, you might have been able to do that in other games. But I remember playing this one and thinking, holy crap, that's awesome. I can't believe they actually let you do that. So there was also, it was just like super huge scale. The guns sounded really punchy. It was just a lot of fun overall. I tried playing this again recently and I ended up getting motion sick, so that might say something about the times and the kind of games that we have nowadays as opposed to what we used to get back in, what game was this? 2006 for this game. Next up is Burnout Revenge. This one is a great freaking game. But it doesn't hold a candle, for me at least, to Burnout 3 Takedown, which I unfortunately don't have in this collection. I do have it at home. My dad plays it, so I left it with him. I want to get a second copy of it just to have for my own personal viewing collection, but Burnout Revenge is just the one that I'm going to go ahead and go with for the video, at least for today. It was also the first Burnout game to have online capabilities. So you could race online with other people over a network. Unfortunately, those servers have shut down, but it's still something that you were able to do, which is super cool, especially for the time. Next up is the only Call of Duty game that I own for the PlayStation, Call of Duty World at War Final Fronts. So this game was taken on by an entirely different developer. It had nothing to do with Treyarch. Treyarch was the ones that developed World at War. They handed off development of this version of the game to Rebellion, so they're the ones that went ahead and put this game together, and it shows. It's completely different from the actual game. It's more like a expansion than anything else, but the funny thing is this game's an expansion to a game that never came out on the PlayStation 2 in the first place, so it's really obscure. It doesn't have much of a place in the Call of Duty franchise. It's just kind of banking on the World at War name, which was super popular at that time as well. What game? This is a 2008 game, so I guess that can just goes to show, when they were still making Call of Duty for previous generation consoles at the time, at least. So next up is Champions of Norath. Definitely one of my favorite games of all time. Similar in structure to Boulders Gate Dark Alliance games, but I think Champions of Norath did it so much better. I know it was a spin-off of a different type of game. I can't remember off the top of my head what this game is a spin-off of, but the creators of Boulders Gate Dark Alliance actually went on to make make this game, which is just, like I said, more of the same from the first game. So I thought it was super interesting. It was super cool to, you know, play in this world. I can't for the life of me remember what it's a spin-off of, but it was a spin-off of a larger title. So next up is a game that I actually haven't played yet. I am, like I said, a collector, so a lot of these games that I have, I may or may not have played in the past. This is one of them. So Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex is a game that I never actually played when I was a kid, but I do have it in my collection because I did buy a silver PS2 and it came with a few games. Some of them I'll go ahead and show you here in just a bit. But it's a Crash game, platformer, you know, more or less. It's just better updated graphics. I think they took away a lot of animations for Crash that they had in Crash 3. But you know, I don't know much about this game. I like Crash Bandicoot. I have played maybe an hour of it so far, but I have it. Next up is Jam Vendetta. One of my favorite wrestling games of all time. It takes real-world rappers and celebrities and puts them in a fighting wrestling style arena game, and it has a great soundtrack. Some of my favorite songs of all time are on this game. Unfortunately, this version that I have, the disc doesn't read, and it doesn't matter what I put it inside, like a different PlayStation or whatever, it just will not read the disc. I don't know why, and it's kind of unfortunate because I spent a long time trying to find this game, and now that I have it, it doesn't work. So I'm gonna have to find another copy, but I do have this one purely for collection and viewing purposes. It looks nice on the shelf. Dynasty Warriors 4 is next on my list here. They're all in alphabetical order in case you haven't noticed. But Dynasty Warriors 4 is a hack and slash game. You take charge of a leader of, I believe it's the Chinese, different Chinese warriors. And basically you fight in large-scale battles. You fight against grunts, other bosses, other people, like, you know, that sort of thing. It's really, really fun. It's kind of a game that you just turn your brain off for the most part, unless you want to go for higher combinations, strings, and that sort of thing. But I really, really enjoyed this game when I was a kid. I'm going to have to get back into it because I haven't played it in such a long time. But I know exactly what I'm getting into when I, you know, put this game in to play it. So now I have Fatal Frame 2. I played a little bit of this game. I had attempted to do a YouTube Let's Play on it like years ago, but I never really got around to it. It's a interesting psychological style horror game where the premise is you have a camera that damages or hurts, you know, evil spirits that are attempting to attack you. Like I said, I didn't get very far into this game. The premise is super interesting, and I do like Japanese style horror, so this is right up my alley. I just haven't gotten the chance to actually throw it in and play it in its entirety just yet, but I will soon, probably on my Twitch channel. I'll have a link to that in the description, and it'll also be in my end slate card if you'd like to check that out. This is the last Final Fantasy game that I really, really enjoyed. I put a lot of time into it. It's Final Fantasy X. I think it might have been the only Final Fantasy game to come out on the PS2 besides its sequel, X-2. I don't remember if 12 also came out on the PS2, but I also never played it, so that might be something someone can correct me on in the comments down below. But I do love this game. It was the first Final Fantasy with full voice acting, and I think it had in-game CG scenes as well. So it didn't like cut away to an FMV all the time. Some of the cutscenes were actually the in-game models, which I'm pretty sure was brand new for the time. Like full motion CG cutscenes. So, and I believe it also had like real-time, oh, it says it back here, real-time facial expressions, complete 3D environments, and then newly designed battle system. This also had the first of-a-kind battle system. I think it was called ATB. It was either CTB or ATB, but it was a really interesting take on the turn-based battle system because you could actually see who was coming up next in like the turn list, and that wasn't a thing in previous Final Fantasies. Next up, I have Final Fantasy X's sequel, Final Fantasy X-2. Also, really enjoy this game. I've owned these two since they actually came out. This one, I gotta say, is probably my... I love Final Fantasy X, but I think I might like Final Fantasy X-2 just a little bit more because I felt like they could have done so much more with Yuna, and they take advantage of it in this game. Dress spheres are awesome, the character designs are awesome, the dress sphere designs are awesome as well, and you can change jobs on the fly. You're not stuck to the sphere grid system where you have to actually travel around the sphere grid to get all the different abilities from each one of the different characters. This one, you can just choose one at any given time and switch to it, and you can have that ability set. So it was very cool. It's not something that I've played in recent years, but I would definitely want to go back to it and just kind of relive the active battle system that they had in that game as well. So this one doesn't have a case, but it's Gauntlet 7 Sorrows. You can kind of see the disc there. I do have to get the case for it. I do have to get like the manual and things like that inside. I bought this secondhand. I think it was from GameStop. And, you know, it's actually a really fun game. Gauntlet-style games are some of my favorite action role-playing games. So, I don't know, like you could see with Boulders Gate, like you could see with Champions of Norath, Gauntlet is just right up my alley with that sort of gameplay. It's actually a shame that we don't get those types of games very much anymore. It's a genre that's kind of fallen off to the wayside. I think that we should actually go back to that sort of game style and gameplay because it was just a lot of fun. Next up, we have the classic Grand Theft Auto adventure, Grand Theft Auto 3. One of the first, actually I think it was the first 3D Grand Theft Auto game. Revolutionized Grand Theft Auto and everything that it stood for. You had full motion CGI cutscenes. You also had voice acting. I don't know if any of the previous Grand Theft Autos had voice acting, but this one for sure did have it. It was a fully 3D model world that you could just explore, and it was the first of many sandbox games that I ever experienced. I actually still know all of the cheat codes for this game, and I like to use them whenever I do pop this game in, you know, every once in a great while. Next up is the second game in a phenomenon, Guitar Hero 2. This one is definitely one of my favorite games. I also had Guitar Hero 3 for the PlayStation 2. I don't know where that copy went, unfortunately, but I still have the guitar that came with it, because when you bought Guitar Hero 3, it came with a wireless guitar. I still have it, I just don't know where the game itself is. I do have this for the Xbox 360 as well, so I still play it from time to time. I don't play the PS2 version because, like I said, I'm missing the guitar as of right now. It's probably at home somewhere, honestly, but had some really great songs, introduced me to a lot of great bands when I was a kid, and I would like to see a revival of the series. Just I hope it doesn't get oversaturated like it did back in, when did this come out, 2006. There was like all different kinds of Guitar Hero games coming out, rock band games coming out, DJ Heroes, all of that stuff. So there was just an oversaturation in the market, and that's ultimately what led to its downfall. So hopefully we don't see that again, but I would like to see more Guitar Hero games in the future. Next up is Hotshots Golf 4. One of my favorite games of all time. I had actually planned on doing a Do You Remember video on this. I think I might still do that, but in Japan this is called Everybody's Golf. It's actually currently called Everybody's Golf. They got rid of Hotshots Golf in 2013 when Everybody's Golf came out for the US. So, you know, if you ever want to play this game for current gen consoles, it's just called something else. But it was super fun, really cartoony, had great golf mechanics. I still play this. I actually have a version of this game on my Vita that I play on the go. I also play it on my PSP every once in a while. I do have a copy of that version of the game as well. You know, I just love golf games, and this was like the epitome of a perfect golf game for me. So, you know, if you ever feel like playing a golf game, highly recommended. Next up is the third in a series, Jak 3. I never played these games. This is one of those games that came in the box set that I had picked up for the silver PlayStation 2. I was never interested in it as a kid. I also partially didn't know that they existed. When it came to getting games for me as a kid, I never really thought about it. I didn't see any commercials or anything like that. I actually didn't even know that the Xbox existed until 2006, 2007-ish, when I went to a boarding school and met up with people who had Xboxes. I didn't know they existed. I still had a PlayStation 2. But Jak 3, I'm gonna definitely play through this series at some point. I am a lot more interested in it now than I was when I was a kid, so this might be something cool to check out. It's worth mentioning that I do have the collection on the Vita. I just haven't actually gotten around to playing it just yet. Next is one of my favorite series of all time. Unfortunately, I don't have the first in the series. I don't know what happened to it, but Kingdom Hearts 2 is what I have now. I'm actually currently playing this on my Twitch channel. I'm doing a completely 100% blind playthrough. I've never played this game before this year, and you know, I'm actually really enjoying it, but I still think the first game edges it out in a couple of different areas. I'll have a video on that after I'm finished playing Kingdom Hearts 2 as well, so look forward to that. If I ever get around to actually doing it. And then next up, I have the port to the PS2 of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. I think it was just called Chain of Memories. This game was actually really surprising. I didn't play it as a kid. I did own it. I had to re-buy it because someone stole it. Big surprise there. It's like the story of my life. Someone steals my shit. But I did play this year for the first time, and I was blown away by how good the gameplay was. I liked the story. I didn't do everything, and I'm still getting shit for it in my Twitch channel. I didn't do the Riku, so I'm gonna have to go back and do that eventually, I think, because apparently it's very important. But I really liked this game. I was blown away by how good it actually was, and I was not expecting to enjoy a card-based system. I don't like card-based systems, but this one was a lot better than I expected it to be. Next up, we have my favorite series of all time. It's the second game in the series, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. Freaking love Metal Gear. I've played every game in the series except for this one, surprisingly. This is the only one I haven't played. I've played the first one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, Portable Ops, Peace Walker, I played Acid even, and just, this is the only one that eludes me. So I'm gonna go ahead and play through all of the Metal Gear Solid games on my Twitch channel. I'm gonna do a completely blind playthrough of this one because I don't know anything about it. So we should, well, I mean, I shouldn't say I don't know anything about it. I do know a lot about this game and how it pertains to the story. I just don't know how everything unfolds. So that should be very, very interesting to check out. I actually also have a second copy of it inside this disc here. So, you know, I've owned this game for quite a while, I just haven't gotten around to actually playing it. When it comes to my favorite games of all time, we gotta go with Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. So this game, when I first played it, I think it was in 2012, 2013, freaking loved it, was blown away by the systems in this game. I'm actually really sad that some of the mechanics didn't make a return to the series, like healing yourself and treating your wounds, things like that was super cool. Catching wildlife to raise your stamina, all of those sorts of systems were amazing. Camouflage system didn't come back in the same way, which I'm very disappointed by, but as far as Metal Gear games go, this one has probably got to be my absolute favorite in terms of gameplay. In terms of story, it's very, very good, but I do think that Metal Gear Solid 4 edges out any other Metal Gear game in terms of story, seeing as it was supposed to be the finale and the wrap-up to the whole series. But Metal Gear Solid 3, in the gameplay department, definitely one of the best in the series, for sure. Next up is another one of my favorite games. Didn't play the first one. I do own it, I think, actually. But Midnight Club 2, definitely one of my favorite games of all time. I do have several copies of this game as well. They're kind of just hiding in other places though, so. But it was really, really fun. The first time I'd ever played a open world racing game. I didn't play Underground or Underground 2 or anything like that. Midnight Club 2 was my first introduction to race however you want, just hit the checkpoint style gameplay and racing mechanics. It was a very good looking game for the time. I think it might have been a launch title. No, I think the first game was a launch title. Midnight Club 1 was a launch title. Midnight Club 2 improved in all aspects. The graphics were better, the car models were better, the racing itself was better, the city lights was better, or the city layout was better. And I honestly think this might be one of my favorite racing games of all time. aside from Burnout 3, Burnout 3 takes the cake. One of my favorite games ever. Like, that's on high on my list of games of all time. So, but Midnight Club 2, definitely a part of my collection. Highly recommend it to anyone who hasn't played it yet. Here's the first one. I guess I have it out of order, but I do have the first Midnight Club. This one was the launch one. I can see the year. It says 2001 on here. So I do have Midnight Club and Midnight Club 2. I just had them out of order. Same game, just a little bit worse compared to Midnight Club 2. Midnight Club 2, like I said, is better in all aspects. The cars were super blocky in Midnight Club. The world was kind of weird. The driving was super stiff, but you know, you can overlook all that, seeing as it was the first of its kind on the PlayStation 2, and it, you know, it takes a little time to get all those kinks and get it refined and get it all worked out.
What's going on, guys? I'm doing this in post because I realized that the video was getting really long. So I'm going to break it up here. Half the games now, half the games next week. So go ahead and stay tuned for that. I'm also working on several other videos that I hope will pad out the time between now and then. But for now, I do have this video going up, and then next week for sure I'll have the second half of the video on the channel. In between then and now, I'll be working on other videos, but I think the release schedule is going to be once a week if I can get ahead of the weekly release schedule that I want. This is a good first step. I'm going to try to do more, but seeing as how I work overnights, that's going to be a little difficult. We shall see though, because I was dedicated to doing this at the beginning of the year, and then, you know, the pandemic happened and kind of threw everything in a loop. So for now, enjoy this. I hope you enjoyed this video at least. Stay tuned for the next one, and then we'll hopefully see you in the near future with more videos being completed.